It's obviously an expensive sport, but what we do is that we have a fixed budget every year for Sean, and we try and stick to that, and then we try and get as much support as we can from sponsors to help that. He's only just started. This is his first full season in Europe, so this is really the first year that we've started to think about sponsorship in more serious terms, I guess, hey Sean? Depending on there's Formula One, which is millions and millions of dollars, and there's prototype racing, which is again millions of dollars. So what we've targeted is GT racing, which is growing, has a huge following. The cars that Sean races are the cars that you see in the showrooms, and so the connection is there for the manufacturers. All the big manufacturers, McLaren, Mercedes, Porsche, are in the big GT series. There's a big GT series in Europe called Blancpain. First race this weekend. They have 53 cars on the grid, and they're all recognizable, to the cars that you can buy in the showroom. So it's much more likely that individuals and corporates are more happy to sponsor drivers driving something that has relevance to the road rather than a Formula One car. But it's the cost. It's still expensive. The costs range from 10,000 Sing to 30,000 Sing per race, depending on the type of car and the type of race. But we have some support, so which helps. But it's an expensive business. So this year, I think Sean's going to try and drum up some more interest, and then see where we can take it this year and next year. But we have to try.
How many races would that be?
This year, the series he's doing, which is Porsche Mobile One Super Cup, which is probably one of the most competitive GT series in Europe now. There are 8 races, but because of his degree, he's studying for a degree in mechanical engineering, we can only do 5 because the other 3 races are during exam time. So we'll be doing 5 out of the 8 races, starting probably in July through to September, and then we're also trying to get him in to do the Porsche Carrera Cup Asia support race that supports Formula One in Singapore. Again, a couple of people have shown some interest to help him do that, but everything is a work in progress. One thing we learn about racing: everything happens at last minute, but we do our best. The sponsorship thing in Singapore, I have to say, is quite hard work, because the racing culture here is relatively new. Sean has friends who race and drive in Malaysia, and I'm from Malaysia originally, and there's much more racing culture there, and a lot of drivers get a lot of support.
There's no difference, in whether I'm fully sponsored or whether we're paying a big chunk of it as well. In terms of the driving perspective, I think that you should be, as a professional driver, you should be performing at your best, regardless of where the funding is coming from. But obviously, if anything, having a sponsored drive, my motivation should be higher.
I guess you would have to dress smarter if you had sponsorship.
Yeah, I have to make sure my hair's always done.
I would also have to shave regularly. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, not just from a driving perspective. You'd have to obviously be presentable, be professional outside the car as well. to try and portray try and portray a good image for like whichever sponsor is involved.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, I never had a speeding ticket, so very responsible on the road.
The only one in the family, even the mothers had a speeding ticket.
Yeah, exactly. So
Which is kind of ironic.
I don't believe in like driving fast and dangerously on the roads. I'm completely against that. I believe that the racing and all that should stay on the circuit, where there's no risk of endangering other people. Like I have zero tolerance for people who drink and drive, and I have zero tolerance for people who road race. I think it's just it's just not necessary.
Someone looking from the outside, racing, it looks relatively straightforward. You get in the car and drive, but if you understand that from first on the grid to last, the slowest can be about a second, you can see an overlap of over 2.5 minutes. You see, the tiny differences that a driver can make. But anyone who has any doubt that racing is not a sport should get in a GT car and go for a few laps. It's incredible. It's incredibly violent. It's stop start, the acceleration, the brakes. You have to be super fit to do it. And every sport has its pros and cons. Team sports, individual sports, but motor racing is his, and it is a very exciting sport.
What's your fitness regime like?
Before uni, I was training 12
Mine?
times.
No, his.
For the taxi driver.
No, yeah. Sorry.
No, but I mean, to be fair, like my dad is very fit as well. He works out several times a week. We used to go for runs together when I had more time and everything. So that's great. But before uni, when I had more time, I was training 12 times a week, every morning and evening for 6 days a week, and I would take Sunday as a rest day. Now with university and exams and everything, I'm training 6 times a week. I do a lot of muscular endurance training with upper body, legs, especially core and my neck as well for the G-forces. And most importantly, I do a lot of cardio. So I cycle, I like to run, and I like to swim as well, because swimming is very good for expanding your lungs. So it's still very strict, the fitness regime for racing.